Hello friends, welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to a Q&A session. It's been a while since I last streamed, and I thought we'd just hang out. You can ask questions, I can provide answers, and we'll have a good time. So let's say hello to all the people in the chat. Hello Ed, welcome to the stream. In the first question that was asked, well, not exactly a question, but Ed says, hey CJ, I don't really have any questions, just wanted to say thanks, we appreciate you. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that you appreciate me. And hello, Ed. Hello, Avi12. Happy birthday to Avi12, who just turned 22 a couple days ago. Hello, Orlando. Welcome to the stream. Hello, yes, sir, from Pakistan. That's great. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Danielle. Hello, Rolando from Panama. Bohan says, 3 months ago I turned 27. Where was my happy birthday? Happy birthday, Bohan. Hello, Liam from the UK. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Ilana. Welcome, welcome. There are people from all over. I was just looking at the guest map today. I created this over a year ago now, but there's just dots all over this map. I mean, I realize some of them could have been faked because you can change your location in like the dev tools, but look at all the Coding Garden viewers all around the world. That's pretty cool. Hello, Ayub. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Alka. Who says Kappa? What does that mean? Maybe it's an answer to one of the questions or something. Hello, Satya. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, Alka says it doesn't work on mobile. Yeah, I don't know what Kappa is. Hello, Humanshu, also known as Tipsy Ninja on the Discord. Welcome. And it has been a while. Yeah, I mean, the last stream I did was that live stream at Develop Nimber. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It was a super fun time, and it all worked out. But yeah, if you go to my channel, you can see the bouncing DVD logo. If you go to dvd-logo.now.sh, you can see it. Oh, and shout out to Alka. In the chat during the live stream, he mentioned the golden number, which is, I think, like 127. I ended up implementing that after. But yeah, I built this live with suggestions from the audience. That was super fun, so check that out. Alka is saying, type Kappa into chat. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, is it an emoji? I see. That's very interesting. Cool. But yeah, check out that stream. That was super fun. Who else is here? Hello, Fabajan. What do you think about Quasar? I have thoughts. Make sure to ask on the Slido here. Actually, yeah, the link to the Slido is in the title of the live stream and in the description. So click on that and be sure to ask there so people can upvote. But I'll definitely get to your question. Hello, BMax. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Rico Jihani. Welcome, welcome. Chris Perez, what's up? Cool. Ashok asked a question, could you make a video on how to be a pro in JavaScript as I am in the mid-level career at the moment? It's an interesting question because there's no like definitive pro. Like, what does it mean to be a pro? But we can definitely talk about it. Hello, Linus Dev, welcome to the stream. Yeah, we got the Kappas in the chat. Hello, Raphael, welcome. Hello, Andreas. Oh, Satya's saying I have a terrible time for streaming as per IST. Is that India Standard Time? Yeah, what time is it there? It is currently 1:12 a.m. I apologize to everyone in India. Avi says, I like how you made the DVD logo in vanilla JavaScript. Yeah, I was just showing that. So it was up to the audience to vote on what I use. I gave them choices like React, Vue, Svelte, and vanilla. They chose vanilla, and so that was super fun. One of the things, though, is I also had constraints, and they voted that the constraint, one of them that I had on there was every variable or function name has to be the name of a punk rock band. So if we look at the JavaScript, every single variable is a punk rock band. It makes the code really hard to read, but it was fun to do. Basically, we had like a draw, update, collision detection, color changing function, game loop, all named after punk rock bands. Oh, it got stuck in the corner. Did you see that? Oh, you know what? Oh, it's because I zoomed in. Yeah, if I zoom way in and it's down here, like it gets stuck. Cool. Oh, I thought of something too. Like you could play a game where like you try to get it into the corner, like if you like move the screen exactly. Like there. Oh yeah, we got it stuck in the corner. It's like an interesting concept for a web game. It's like outside of the browser because you're like changing the screen. I don't know. Let's see. Himanshu says, I'm trying to learn front-end stuff. Any idea on how to get a job faster after I've done learning? I might have some ideas. Just everyone be sure to throw your questions in Slido, just so... I'm going to use that kind of as a source of truth, because you can upvote on there and stuff. But we can definitely answer that question, or attempt to. Hello, Zuhai, welcome to the stream. Hello, Man on the Run from Greece, welcome. Vikara says, I love your project vids, do more MERN stack apps. So that's like a Mongo on the back end with React on the front end. Yeah, I guess that map app I made was that stack. I definitely want to do more React videos. I'm thinking of doing some like React hooks and effects videos, or potentially rebuilding this thing, which I built with... Oh, I did use React. Yeah, I used plain old React for this, but rebuild it using React and hooks, so that would be fun. Hello, Bob's Paradox, who says PogChamp. I think that's a Twitch thing, too. Welcome. Hello, Inspire the Next. A shock means, a pro means to get into a senior position. Yeah, and again, a lot of companies have different meanings for what it means to be a junior, a mid, or a senior developer. But there are things you can do. So yeah, we can talk about that. Hello, Pablo from Germany. Welcome. Hello, Sarit. Hello, Grape Nose Boy, who says, no blink? Do you mean on the DVD logo? Is it supposed to blink? It does change color when it hits the corners. Hello, Julian. Good to see you too. Amit says, India equals views. There are a lot of people in India watching YouTube and learning how to code. Daniel says, code a man bun. We can try. I think later on I'll enable the ideas feature on Slido, and you can submit ideas for things for me to code. Linus Dev asks, have I ever been to Switzerland? I have not. Actually, maybe. I lived in Germany when I was a kid, and we did visit the Alps. Are the Alps only in Switzerland, or are they in other parts of Europe too? I'm not very good with European geography. That doesn't help. I'll say I haven't been to the Alps in recent years, and really that I can remember. Look at that. Cool. John, hello, says, thanks for your streams from a veteran C# dev who is enjoying Vue.js right now. That's awesome. I actually did C# as my, there's like the first language I learned and programmed in when I initially went into the workforce. Hello, Merritt Chan, welcome to the stream. Avi says, I recently moved to Chromium-based Edge as Chrome's performance has gotten worse. Interesting, yeah, I don't really work on a Windows machine to be able to test that out, but that was some news a while back that Edge decided to adopt the Chromium engine. So IE Edge is basically Chrome now. Vikara asks, why not just publish Udemy courses? I don't know. I mean, I haven't really made like any official course content in a while. I've been busy with work. I do eventually want to do something like that. Actually, like the past few days, I've been ideating and brainstorming of how I'm going to do something like that. But for now, YouTube, it's free. Anybody can watch, anybody can learn. I do have donations. If you look in the link description, you can donate on Patreon or Streamlabs. And I think eventually if I do make a course, I want to make it donation based. So you can donate $1 or $5 or whatever. I don't know if Udemy supports that. And the Udemy has gotten some bad flack in the past for how they handle copyrighted content being used by other people and charging money. I don't know. Yeah, full stack app on React would be nice. We can do that. Oh yeah, Orlando's saying new mouse. Yes, I got a nice vertical mouse. You can, I guess, yeah, you can kind of see me using it. But if you've never seen one of these, they're actually really cool. I used to use one all the time at my last job, but when you use a regular mouse, your arm is like this. And you have two bones in your arm. I don't know what they're called, but when you rotate like this, it's like an unnatural position. Like this bone is crossing over that bone, so it can cause like strain in your muscles. And so like your hand in its natural position is like this. So this mouse lets you use the mouse with your hand in its mostly natural position. It's a vertical mouse. Oh, Great Moves Boy is saying Blink-182. Someone did call out Blink-182 like towards the end, but we were running out of variable names. So, or running out of things to name. So it didn't make it in. Shuling is saying Alps are in Switzerland and Italy. And I might have been in Italy. I don't know. But I would love to travel Europe now in my adult years because I was a kid back then. Ooh. Grape Nose Boy has more stats in all of these countries. So I could have actually been in Germany. I don't know. Hello, memes. You made it to the stream. Cool. Chris is saying the view function API plus hooks is the best creation in Vue.js. I'm glad you like it. It is new, so like it's not totally official yet, but it got a lot of hate initially. I think eventually people are going to learn to love it, especially when you see larger apps and how it can make things easier to read, easier to logic through, makes your code more reusable. It's a good thing. Pablo says, thank you. I learned a lot from you. You are very welcome. Yeah. Vikar is saying, and I think they asked the question about Udemy. It doesn't have to be course content. People publish themselves just building apps from scratch without teaching much. Yeah. I do want to make some sort of like official course. And I kind of want to start from the beginning. Like, what is the terminal? How do you do terminal commands? How do you manage things with Git? And then move into HTML and CSS and then move into JavaScript. Like, I want to do all of that. I just haven't had the time. Cool. Riku is saying, anyone who's looking for the full stack course with the MERN stack, look for Full Stack Open. It's by the University of Helsinki, and you develop a couple different apps. Very cool. All right, let's get to the questions on Slido. We'll archive that one. I appreciate you appreciating me, Ed. All right. Linus Dev says, could you show us how to use Mongo or another database with serverless functions? Ooh. I could, yes. Do I want to do that right now? I don't know. I think I want to try and answer some simpler questions because that'll take some setup. But I am going to enable what should I build? And now on the page, oh, wait, can I switch to Q&A? Yeah, okay, so it should be enabled. Hopefully that didn't confuse anyone, but if you go to the ideas, submit this as an idea, and we can potentially do this a little bit later when I start coding some stuff, but it's a good suggestion. Cool. Anonymous asks, what do you think about making videos on Django or Laravel? I don't think you have any videos on MVC frameworks, and it would be so cool to watch you do these. Yeah, I mean, the main reason all of my videos are what they are is because that's what I've been using at work, and that's what I use on a daily basis. I'm definitely not opposed to branching out to things like this. You should check out Brooks Builds. He is on Twitch, Brookzerker. He streams, and I believe recently he has been doing, can I close this? Go away. He has been doing, well, not in more recent streams, because in recent streams he was doing deep learning, but before that he had quite a few live streams on Laravel. Let's find him on YouTube. Oh, not Laravel. Brooks Builds. Videos. Yeah, so making a project idea holder with PHP, Laravel, and Vue.js. So definitely check out Brooks Builds. He streams almost every weekday morning, I think like 7 a.m. my time. So sub to him, check out his videos, and the question, will I do it? One day. But honestly, right now I really don't have the time, mainly because like I'm writing React and Node.js daily at work, and so those are the kind of the things that I focus on when I'm teaching, basically because I'm using it all the time. But I would like to do stuff like that in the future. Cool. This is a good question from Satya, who says, any project ideas for a front-end beginner? Yes. Okay, how do I find it? There's a really cool website, and I've made like a list before of websites that have ideas for projects. There are some subreddits that have like people submit ideas, but it is a good jumping off point because I know as a beginner it can be really hard. Like you're learning all this stuff, but now you want to try and apply your knowledge somewhere. So first thing I'll suggest is JavaScript 30, which is from Wes Boss. And they're basically 30 little project ideas, and he has videos for every single one. Can we see the videos? Yeah, here they are. He has a video for every single one where he shows you how he would build it. But if you want to go the route of trying to build it from scratch yourself, because that's the best way to learn, that's how you apply your knowledge, most of his videos start out introducing the project, and then he tells you like, pause the video, go try to make it yourself, and then you can see how he does it. But this is really great. There's tons of cool project ideas on here. Let's put them here so they'll be forever saved when someone else asks this question. Let's copy the question. Any project ideas for a front-end beginner? Okay, first one, JavaScript 30. Check it out. What else? I'm just gonna Google JavaScript app ideas because that's usually how I find this list. Someone has like a really good website. I think this is the one. Yeah, cool. JavaScript project idea. So they break it down into like UI stuff. So if you want to focus on like building a small little component, like a form validator or a collapsible navigation menu, really these are not exactly a project. They're kind of like one little thing. But they do have ideas on here that would kind of be like a full-scale project. So a price estimator, a shopping cart, a tip calculator, a cost splitter, a random name picker. Here's some games to choose from, social apps. There's all kinds of stuff in here. So this is a good one. Yeah, let's just see what these posts link to or talk about. That's cool. Ooh, an interactive map. Yeah, I'm not going to link to these because you can find them by searching the web yourself. Cool. There is this subreddit. It's called Somebody Make This, SMT. Let me see if I can find it. Reddit.com/somebody make this. Somebody make this. Let's find it. Reddit, somebody make this. Oh, maybe I spelled it wrong. Cool. Now, these aren't front-end ideas specifically, but people will just randomly submit like, hey, this is an interesting idea, somebody should make it, and you might find some gems in here. Let's see what there is. A service that gleans the good stuff from comments and some other info services. That'd be interesting. What if you scraped the comments from a YouTube video, maybe one that has like thousands of comments, and then used some pre-existing text analysis algorithm to find the most interesting comments and show those first. Let's see. An app that lets you compile your friends and your schedules on a grid so you can easily find who's available. That's great. There is one that does exist. I've used quite a bit. I forget what it's called, but I think the other thing about project ideas is it doesn't have to be original. Like if there's an app that you use every day, or even popular apps out there like Discord or Facebook, it doesn't hurt to just recreate that because you are building it from scratch and you're kind of showing that you have the development skills to build things like that. So check this out too. Let's see if anyone... Wait. Oh yeah, that's Brooks Bill's channel. I was like, what did I send in there? Hello, Katoli, who says, what a long time, TJ. It has been a long time. I've just been busy. Hello, Krishu from Germany. Welcome. Bohan says, SMD, somebody make dis. Oh, I forgot /r. Okay, good call. Satya is asking, can we store data on browser storage? Yes, you can. Quick answer, search for local storage. And if you want me to code something in it later, submit it on project, on ideas here on Slido. Cool. Great question, Satya. I hope these links help you. Let me share them in the YouTube chat. That's not good. Oh, man. Hopefully those are clickable. I'm going to put this up on GitHub later if you do want to check it out. Cool, but great question. All right, next question from Tipsy Ninja. Hi, CJ. I'm trying to learn front-end stuff. Any idea how to get a job fast after I'm done learning? I'm also planning to learn Node. Remote job is fine or anything. Cool. So for this question, let's see. Let's summarize the question. After learning, how do I begin to find a job? I think is the question overall. Let's see. Yeah. How to get a job fast, but just in general, okay, I've been learning all this coding stuff, been watching your videos, other videos. I feel like I can build websites now. How do I find a job? That is the question. Before I answer it, hello, Nicola from Italy, Sardinia, Italy. That's great. Okay. First is work on your portfolio. So I'm assuming you're a self-taught developer, meaning you don't have a computer science degree, or you didn't go to a school officially for learning how to program. And if that's the case, it can be harder to get a job places because you don't have that school or that degree on your resume. But what can make up for it is a portfolio of projects. Often the portfolio itself is a project because you would probably build this portfolio. It's a front-end web app. You might build it with Vue or React or something like that. So get yourself a portfolio, get yourself a website, and all of the projects that you've worked on, make sure that they are on GitHub. Easily accessible on GitHub. So, and again, I'm kind of approaching this from the aspect of like, you don't have a computer science degree and you're trying to find a job. For someone that does have a computer science degree, you probably already have internships that you can put on your resume. You maybe don't need a portfolio of projects, but for anyone else, you probably need a portfolio. So have a portfolio. If you just search the web for like web dev portfolio examples, you can get a ton of ideas for what to do. Yeah, 10 awesome web developer portfolios. I have a feeling some of these are going to be like really awesome. Again, it doesn't have to be amazing. It just has to showcase your work. So it should have like an about you, maybe a list of all the languages and technologies that you know, and then a list of projects. And it should link to the project on GitHub and link to a deployed version of the project. So when a hiring manager finds your resume, they can easily just go and check out those projects. They can go to GitHub and check out the code. One thing about having things on GitHub is README is nicely detailed and recently, and I was gonna say recently updated. I'll say like up to date. So I've been to a lot of people's GitHub profiles and students including that are trying to find jobs where they have a ton of repos, but you go into them and there's no README. You don't really know what they do. And so that's kind of a deterrent for a hiring manager if they're trying to see the code for this project, but they don't know how to view it. They don't know how to maybe get it up and running locally. Honestly, no, people really aren't going to try and get it up and running locally if they're just looking at your resume. But regardless, make sure the README is up to date. So typically your READMEs need to include a detailed description of the project. But even before that, just like an elevator pitch of the project. So like, in 1 to 2 sentences, what does this app do? What is it for? Or what or who is it for? You definitely want to answer those questions just to make it so that they go to that GitHub page, they know exactly what this thing does, and then potentially a detailed description, so you can kind of describe in depth. This app reaches out to the Twilio API. It uses the Google Maps SDK. I use Vue to build it, that kind of stuff. And then link to a deployed version of the project. And before that, screenshots. So typically, hiring managers are really busy people. They want to be able to go somewhere, they can read an elevator pitch, they can see a screenshot, get an idea for, okay, they built this thing, they built it from scratch, I can see it how it looks, I don't have to actually visit it. What if the web page is down? You don't have to worry about any of that. And then later on, they might pass it on to one of the developers that might do like a technical interview and say, hey, this is their profile, can you go actually look at the code? But you want to have a low barrier to entry. We can look at my portfolio. I haven't really kept it up to date, but this is the portfolio that I use to get my current job. w3cj.sh. What? You know what? I was cleaning up things earlier and I might have deleted it. What about .now.sh? Okay, here we go. I need to fix that. Is it broken? Yeah, I broke it. That's hilarious. Because yeah, earlier I was on Now and like cleaning up old projects. I might have deleted this. That's unfortunate. But my portfolio, actually, let me see if I can get to it. Go to null.computer. Yeah, it's down. But my portfolio has like a description of me, has a link to my resume. It has all the projects that I've built. I even decided to put open source contributions on there. So if you look at my GitHub profile, my personal one, you can see some of the projects that I've contributed to, some of the projects that I have on here. The other thing is, like, this is not super important, but showing that you have active contributions is showing that, like, you're actively contributing to GitHub. Now, if you currently have a job and they have, like, some private or internal Git, you're probably not going to have active contributions. But if you are a self-taught developer trying to find a job, you're probably using GitHub, and this shows that, like, you're committing on a daily basis and you're learning. Let's just pick one of my repos at random and see if I have a good README in there. Oh yeah, this is actually something I made last night. But if we go into it, it gives a elevator pitch, one sentence description of what it does, how to get it up and running. This isn't like a deployed front end app, so this is what you would need to do it, and then how to use it. So pretty much every one of my repos has a fairly decent README of how to get that thing up and going. What else? I think this is actually like a slide deck. Yeah, so it's just a README. Let's find some other projects. I don't know. What is this? It has a README. Oh, and I even put my ERD in there. Cool. I've been talking about that way too long, but ultimately you want to make your stuff super consumable, and you want to have good descriptions so people know what you're building. So have a portfolio, have everything hosted on GitHub. What else? Let's see if anyone in the chat is suggesting things. Cool. Rico is saying, best tip I can give is sending questions about certain positions to recruiters. Yeah. So I think I get what that's saying. So like, you see a job posting and you're interested in it, instead of just submitting your resume, actually come up with some questions that you have, like, how does your team work? What tech stack do you use? Do you pair program? Will there be mentorship opportunities? Like, come up with a list of questions that show that you're actually interested and will hopefully like move your resume a little bit up in the stack. Okay, what else can I mention? So you definitely need a portfolio. It needs to be publicly accessible. Build it yourself, or use a Gatsby or ViewPress or GridSum template to get up and going. Have all your projects on GitHub. What else? Of course you can't read this, but practice coding interview problems. So there's kind of like multiple stages to this, right? It was like, okay, first, I know how to code now. What do I do? Well, show the world that you know how to code. Like, make sure it's publicly accessible. People can see your code. They can visit your projects, that kind of thing. Then, once you eventually get your resume looked at somewhere and they do want to interview you, you're going to have to potentially do some sort of coding interview. It varies wildly by company, but there are pair programming interviews. There are like take-home code challenges. I've done some of these before, where basically they send you a prompt and say like, build this app, these are the requirements, send us a link to the GitHub repo when you're done. And that you can kind of do on your own time. You're not under pressure. They can then review the code and decide if they want to take it further to do an on-site or pair programming interview. And for these, you can do stuff like code katas. That's just one option, but there are things like Project Euler. There's HackerRank, and plenty of others, but these are more of like algorithmic problem-solving type of coding problems, which are actually very different from like building front-end web applications. But most companies will actually test for this kind of thing to show that you know how to program. So the idea here is you're practicing this all the time. So like you can't really just spend all your time building your portfolio, because then once you do get an interview, you won't be prepared to do coding challenges and stuff like that. So really, like, all of this you kind of want to be working on simultaneously. Like, work on your portfolio a little bit, practice coding problems a little bit, and potentially don't really start applying places until you have a fairly solid portfolio, GitHub, and also resume. So you definitely need a resume. I would suggest that if you want this type of stuff reviewed, maybe throw a message in the Coding Garden Discord. If I have the time, I wouldn't mind just like clicking a link to your portfolio, giving you some feedback, or even clicking your resume and giving you some feedback there. There's tons of resources online on how to make a good resume, how to make a resume that's consumable, how to make a resume that will work with the different hiring systems that people use. So you need a resume, you need to practice coding problems, and then finally you just need like start applying. And when you do that, you want to keep track of applications. There are a lot of different ways to do this. You could just use a spreadsheet. There are some custom apps. I actually used one a while back, but basically you want to stay organized, because potentially you're going to be applying to tens, if not hundreds of places, and you want to keep track of where you applied to. You don't want to just like apply everywhere and hope to hear back. You want to be somewhat methodical about it. So when you apply somewhere, you should keep track of the date that you applied, the link to the job description, and potentially like take a screenshot or make a backup of the job description just in case it goes up offline. And then you can also make a log of sent an email on this date, received a follow-up email on this date, waiting for a reply. And it's really just going to keep you organized when you're during the application process, because typically you need to apply to bunches and bunches of places, especially if you're new to coding and new to the industry. You can't just apply to one place and hope that you get it. Apply lots and lots of places. And part of this is like even apply places you might not want to work to get practice interviewing. Because interviewing itself is an entirely separate skill from building web applications, and you need to know how to do both to be able to get a job. So I had students in the past do this where they would apply to places that they knew they didn't want to work, but it would help them practice their interviewing skills. And they applied those places first so that they could practice their interviewing, so that way when they do apply to a place that they really do want to work, they're more prepared to do that. The other thing, which I just thought of, is there are places online where you can actually practice, do like a mock interview with people. I think there's one called Pramp. Let's see, coding mock interviews. I think there's even one where you can be interviewed by, yeah, Pramp is one. Practicecodinginterview.com. Yeah, but this hooks you up with a random random developer, and then you do like a Skype session, and you can practice interviewing. Yeah, mock interview feedback from engineers at Google, LinkedIn, Uber, and more. Yeah, so check this one out. I don't know these other ones, but do something like that. Or any other live mock interviews. Cool. I've talked about this for a long time. Hopefully that helps. I was pretty long-winded on that one. But yeah, that's what you want to be doing. Let's catch up on the chat. Hello, Pranjal. Welcome to the stream. Hello, Andreas. Hello, Domenico. Hello, Rabbitworks. Welcome. Andreas has a question. I've been trying to get into web dev content creation on YouTube, and I've noticed my content sucks if I don't prepare a lot before recording. What's your prep process? We can talk about that. Be sure to submit it to the Slido, just so people can vote on it. But I will definitely talk about it. Alka is saying you can let GitHub show your private contributions too. That is a great point, and I actually do that. Actually, let's look at my GitHub profile in a incognito window, because this is what it's going to look like to anybody on the internet in the public who goes to my profile. So they see my projects. The other thing is, on your GitHub profile, like, pin some of your projects that you want people to see up front. So yeah, any apps that are deployed or anything like that, pin them, because that's what I've done. You can see my contributions. And on here, yeah, you can see between August 6th and August 22nd, 42 contributions in private repositories. So my company uses a private GitHub organization, and that's where all my code goes. Nobody else can see it except for the people in the company, but GitHub will at least account for it on my contribution graph. If your company isn't using GitHub, if they're like using GitLab or something like that, you can't exactly benefit from that. But yeah, that's a thing. The other thing I'll mention is Go Pro. So I think it's maybe $5 a month, but going pro, oh, actually they might have changed it. I think you can get free private repos on GitHub now. But the point of that is, if you have any repos that are, maybe you were just learning, or maybe it was a test, make those private so other people can't see them, because it's not good to have just a bunch of random projects in here. You really only want the stuff up front and center that people can click on and read about and see and stuff like that. And again, I'll reiterate, that's if you're like new to the coding industry. There's a lot of opinions out there that like you don't need a GitHub account, or you don't need a profile. This is specific to that. Okay. Matthew says, I'm really good in 404 portfolio projects. Are those... Maybe you mean like 404 not found. Interesting 404 pages. This is just a interesting random topic in general. But people have very interesting not found pages when you go to them. I think Slack has one. Slack.com/that. There's been a glitch. Yeah. And if you move your mouse to the right, it like has this scrolling thing, so that's really cool. Other websites have it too. Let's see. No thanks. Funny ones. Oh, that's interesting. Cool. Bob's Paradox says, for web dev, definitely build an API. Yeah, so I didn't really talk about like what kinds of projects, but it all depends on how you're trying to promote yourself or show yourself to the people you're trying to get hired for. If you're trying to get hired for front-end positions, you probably want to show that you have really good CSS skills. Maybe you know a preprocessing language like Sass or less. And maybe you want to show that you can design things from scratch, so you're not using frameworks like Bootstrap or Foundation or different things like that. You want to really showcase your front-end skills. But let's say you're more of like a generalist and you want to show that I want a full stack job and I can do full stack. Maybe you have front-end apps. Maybe they do use a component library because you didn't design it from scratch. But you also built the API. You also built the database. It's all deployed. It all works. It really is just a showcase of your skills. And it comes down to like, how do you want to present yourself? What kind of job do you want to get? Yeah. Oh yeah, Grape Nose Boy, network. Most people get jobs through someone they know. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it will probably get you an interview. Can't believe I didn't mention that here, but yes, network. So go to meetups. It can be hard if you're in a part of the world where there's not a large tech scene. If you're in Denver, there's a huge one. There are meetups almost every day of the week, tech meetups for JavaScript and React and WordPress and databases and all kinds of stuff. And you can just go meet people, learn about tech, and make connections in the community. And yeah, so I think Grape Nose Boy was actually one of my students at one point. But yeah, we always told our students, network, like talk to people, because the majority of people that actually would get jobs is because they got it through some sort of connection. Like they knew someone, they met someone at a meetup, that person, they talked a lot, they got off well, that person went back to their company and said to the hiring manager, hey, this person submitted a resume, we should look at them, and then their resume goes to the top of the pile. A referral or like knowing somebody in the company is always going to get you through the process much faster than just randomly submitting your resume on their website. So go to meetups, post in like tech forums. What else can you do? I don't know. Like it's hard if this doesn't happen in your part of the world, but it is something you should do. Make connections. Augustinus is mentioning Leak Code. I think that's a place like HackerRank. James Wright says, I found building projects that non-technical people would think are cool is a good idea. I wrote an app that found the best/cheapest pub near you. Every recruiter I spoke to said they liked it. Yeah, that's awesome. So, and it goes to show that like, your portfolio of projects doesn't have to be amazing. It's really just to showcase that you know how to build things. And also, if it looks good for someone who's non-technical, that's going to make much more of an impression than something that doesn't look good but is super technically awesome. So yeah, like make a pub finder app or a brew finder app or a beer favoriting app or something like that. Cool. Oh yeah, Augustinus is mentioning cracking the coding interview. So I'll mention that here. Whiteboarding problems. So specifically that book, Cracking the Coding Interview. They have quite a few free videos on YouTube that just walk through the whiteboarding process, because some companies do whiteboarding for programming interviews. So instead of like pairing on a computer or just like submitting your code somewhere, you literally have to write code on a whiteboard. It's pretty antiquated. I don't like it. I probably wouldn't work somewhere if they had an interview process where we did that. But it is out there. And I'll just clarify, that is like literally writing syntactically correct on a whiteboard, syntactically correct code on a whiteboard. If you're applying to more senior positions or like architecture positions, you'll probably do a systems diagramming interview, and that's much different, and that makes a lot more sense because it's really just diagramming systems and how they relate, which is different from literally solving an algorithmic coding problem on the whiteboard. But yeah, that's a thing too. Rabbitworks is saying, what extension do you use to make everything dark mode? I use Stylus. I think it's called Stylus. Stylish? It's this thing. Oh, it is called Stylus. Stylus. This is the one. So it's a Chrome extension, and then you can write custom styles for any website. If you go to userstyles.org, lots of people have updated custom styles that you can install into Stylish, and they'll just apply themselves to websites. And then there is a separate plugin, I think it's just called like dark mode or something like that, and it just automatically does it. But sometimes there can be weird results because it doesn't know the page. These are like custom CSS that people made specifically for that website, so it usually looks pretty decent. Cool. Oh yeah, Pablo is saying private repos are free now, so that's awesome. Oh, Rabbitworks is saying they recreated Skillshare's 404 page. What is Skillshare? Skillshare.com? Okay, let's try it. Oh, that's cool. So the ball moves around. Yeah, that's a fun little coding project. Oh, Nicholas is mentioning they have 2 free Gridsome starter themes on GitHub. Yeah, check those out. Himanshu says, can you share this README? I absolutely will. I can go ahead and push it to GitHub. Let's just do that. I'll put it on Coding Garden. Actually, it is on GitHub. there's a Q&A. Q&A repo. I thought I pushed it to GitHub. I'll push it later, but yes, I will. I will not forget. Grape Nose Boy says, how do you know? Because you've used that username before. Danielle is saying, yeah, all my freelance clients have been from word of mouth, so that's good. Orlando is saying, you recommend on programming with a Mac? Yes, mainly because it's like Unix based. So all of the Unix, Linux commands that I can use here, like ls and stuff like that, they just work, no configuration required. And if you're using something like Docker, it doesn't require anything specific, it'll just work. Yeah, I really just use it because it's somewhat similar to a Linux server, which is what you would eventually deploy to, so it helps. It's not required. There are ways to set things up on Windows where I know they have like the Bash or the Ubuntu subsystem, and there's also like Git Bash, but it's not quite the same. So yes, I do prefer a Mac, but it's not required. And don't let anyone tell you that, because Macs are expensive, and that's like a very high barrier to entry. If we required everyone to have a Mac to do development, you can definitely use Windows or even like a Chromebook if you wanted to. Yeah, Memes is saying you can program on any OS, whatever you prefer. Nicholas is saying, give feedback on products on Intercom. I've landed 2 jobs through Intercom, front-end design. Oh, interesting. By Intercom, do you mean the overlaid chat thing that pops up on websites? I think that's what you mean. Yeah, here, let's see if it pops up. This. So if you've ever seen this on a website, it's actually a way to chat directly with the people behind that website. So I think what Nicholas is suggesting is if you're on a website for a company that you want to apply to and you do have some feedback, why not just send it to them? It's like, hey, I noticed on your website that it does this, but it actually maybe should do this, or I have a suggestion for it. And maybe like you're providing value. You're basically telling them like, if I worked there as a web dev, this is what I would do. So that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's the one that I was thinking of earlier. Linus Dev says there's an awesome extension called Dark Reader, which makes everything dark. I think that's the one that I used to use. Bohan is saying, I had 2 job interviews 3 weeks ago and I failed on both. They were asking me what type of music do I listen to, and is the glass half full or half empty? Yeah, so it's this could go on forever, but the other thing is when you interview at a company, that is itself a skill. But then there's also like the behavioral interview, which is like, are you a culture fit? So for this, you can practice presenting yourself in a good light as well. You definitely want to practice things like, tell me about yourself, tell me about a project you're working on, what is your favorite technology and why? Even personal questions like, how often do you take breaks? But you need to be able to answer these types of questions in an interview as well, which again is a totally separate skill. So like, it's a whole thing. But what Bohan is saying, and I don't know if this is the case, but it could actually be that maybe you weren't a culture fit. Like if you did technically pass, but maybe they didn't think that they could get along working with you, and that's maybe why you failed. But I will mention, like, every failed interview, like every time you don't get a job, there are tons and tons of learnings in there. You can definitely ask for feedback, but you really just want to be like self-critical. Like, what did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? What could I have done better? Take notes about the questions that they ask so you can like research them later or work on them later. But yeah, even if you get rejected somewhere, that was a potential learning that you can use when trying to get a job somewhere else. Punk's not dead. I agree. Danielle says it's Schrodinger's glass. It's both half full and half empty. Yeah, so my answer to that interview question is it's neither, because I'm not going to look at the glass and I'm just going to do my job. Sunworld says, what your choice, Python, Django, or PHP, Laravel for web-based software development? If I had to choose between those two, I don't know. I haven't really used much of either, so I won't comment. Mainly because I don't know. I'd have to see. Mimi likes turtles, or is it meme? Did you just make me pronounce meme incorrectly, Mimi? Oh yeah, Augustinus is saying, your strengths and weaknesses is a popular question to ask. I think it's a dumb interview question, but it is what people ask, so you should have an answer prepared. Start applying, keep track of applications, research the companies, be knowledgeable of what they do. That's the other thing about applying to tons and tons of places, is you might get a callback like 2 months later and you totally forgot that you even applied there. You forgot what they do. But if you have this spreadsheet or anything else to keep track of, when you receive that call, you can just like pull it up and be like, oh yeah, that's this company. Oh yeah, I remember all this about them. And so that's the thing. Cool. Pranjal is saying, is there any way to persist Redux state across browser refresh? Yes, and it's potentially hydrated from local storage. So look into that. All right, I talked about that for a very long time, but let's go on to the next question. Great question, Tipsy Ninja. Let's keep going. Do you want to go to the dog park with Cass and me tomorrow? Yes, Anonymous. Alex is saying, what is your motivation to teach us? This is a great question, because I've actually been thinking about this a lot the past few days. My motivation is that I see in the world that for a lot of people, learning these things is like the things that I teach and the things that I do every day. There's typically like a high barrier for entry. There's a lot of gatekeeping in the industry. And I just want to share my knowledge. Like, YouTube's free. You might have to watch some ads, but for the most part, it's free. And that is a place where I can put this out there and people can learn. I also realize that like not everyone may like my teaching style or may like learning from me. So yeah, I'm not trying to like force it down anyone's throat. And ultimately, I want people to gain knowledge. I want them to change the world for the better. I want them to be nice to other people and share their knowledge with other people. So, I mean, in one way, my motivation is, I guess, to be an example. Like, I'm doing it, so hopefully people out there will do it too. And then also, the world of web development is very interesting because the majority of things are open source. So the majority of things have totally free documentation online where you can learn about all of this stuff without having to pay for anything. All you need is a decent web browser and a decent internet connection, and you can learn all there is to learn. But for a lot of people, it's not very apparent or accessible on how to get there, like once you start learning. So I want to help with that too. I don't know. I'm just rambling, but yeah, I want to be an example. I want to change the world. I want to be an example so that other people want to change the world too. And yeah, and I think that like for me, it's like I'm very well off. Like I purchased a home, I have a good job, I have the free time to do stuff like this, so I would like to, and I do. Cool. Let's keep moving. Anonymous says, what was the most annoying bug you've ever encountered? This is actually a very common interview question. And so I guess one thing I'll mention about like preparing is you want to write down really common interview questions and just like practice them, because interviews are stressful. They are they make you nervous. And so when you're in them, your mind can go totally blank. But if you've practiced these questions before, it can help. And honestly, you gave me flashback to an interview, so I don't know if I want to answer that question. I can just talk about one that I've encountered recently. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm going to try to be very generic about this, but at work, I'm building a product where there is a Node.js web server that dynamically serves a different React application based on the initial requests that it receives. So there are like 5 different React applications, and this Node.js server is kind of in charge of deciding which one to show. And so there's a lot of logic involved. There's like looking up in the database to determine like, okay, you came from here, so this is the one you want to see. And I made a code update recently that just always showed the same React app no matter what. And it took me like an hour to debug why that was even happening. Ultimately, I had like a nested ternary statement, so it wasn't very clear what was happening. If I had just written the code out in a more clear fashion beforehand, it probably would have helped. So that was annoying, and that was the most recent one. It wasn't the most annoying. I've definitely encountered more annoying ones, but there's that. Thanks for asking, Anonymous. Next question, how would you go about onboarding a new backend JavaScript developer that has very little programming experience? Ooh, this is a very interesting one. Let's check the chat. Let's just catch up on the chat, then I'll answer that question. Clay says, pop question, tell me the 3 good sides of yourself and the 3 bad. That's like another form of that same interview question. Pranjal is asking, can you suggest me some projects to build in Node.js in which I have to write some algorithms like CLI tools? I don't know if I have a list of those, but I have built CLI tools on the channel, so you can check out some of the things that I've used. Yeah, I don't have any clear suggestions right now. Sunwhirl asks, what language/framework would you suggest me to develop web-based software development and why? What do you like most personally? Please answer. I will, but ask on Slido. Really quick, my stack is Node.js on the back end, either MongoDB or Postgres, depending on the application, as the database. Probably deployed to something like now.sh, makes it super simple. It ultimately is like serverless functions. For the front end, I would most likely use Vue.js. And that would just be a static application deployed to like a CDN that communicates with the API. That's my preferred stack, but there's a million other ways you could go. Danielle says, you're an awesome inspiration, CJ. You like seriously, you make learning fun and accessible to everyone. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Andrea says, to be honest, you're totally an example, man. I'm doing my best. And I'm not perfect. Like I used to stream all the time, and now like it's been weeks since my last stream. I want to like, eventually I kind of want this to be my full-time job. It's just like teaching, providing content, helping people, mentoring. But that doesn't exactly pay the bills just yet. So I'll keep my day job. Grape Nose Boy says, oh, I didn't know you bought a house. Nice. Yeah. Hello, Sergi. Welcome to the stream. Pablo says, you are appreciated, CJ. Such a lovely person you are. Gifted with your way of teaching. Thank you. And it's very interesting. Like when I first started teaching, because I taught at a place called Galvanize for about 3.5 years. But when I first started, I didn't have any real prior experience. I kind of just learned on the job. But a huge part of it is, there's just like empathy. Like you have to put your, like in beginner's mind. So you have to think about what was it like when you didn't know all the stuff that you know now, because that's what that person you're trying to teach is going through. So you can't assume anything. You can't just gloss over stuff. And that's how I like to approach things. Cool. Robin says, missed you, CJ. Missed you too. They're asking, does MongoDB have server functions like Firebase? MongoDB itself is just a database technology. If you wanted to use it in a serverless application, you'd have to hook that up. So like you could build an AWS Lambda function that communicates with a Mongo database. That's definitely possible. Pranjal is saying, why don't you apply for FANG companies? Never heard of it. Should I Google it? Or search it? High-performing technology stocks in the market. Oh, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google. I see. all of these are now very large corporations. My first job in industry, which was with a very large corporation, and I quickly learned that I don't want to work in a place like that. I prefer smaller companies. Eventually, I kind of just want to work for myself, and that's just personal preference. Augustinus is asking, how long have you been in industry? Let's see. Probably close to 9 years. Pranjal is saying, please make a vlog, a day in the life of a software engineer. I've thought about it, and people at my work have agreed that they would let me do it, but I want to wait for something more interesting to happen. Because right now, it's kind of just me. I go into work, and I just, like, code all day. Or I work from home, and I code all day. But eventually, I definitely want to do something like that. Rabbitworks is saying, CJ, you inspired me to start my channel. True inspiration. I've learned many, many skills starting from your guidance. That's awesome. Yeah, and for sure, check out Rabbitworks JavaScript. Let's see if I can open it. Go to channel. He does live streams as well. He's one of the core contributors on the Coding Garden community app. He does live streams on Vue and other stuff like that. So check him out. Dirty Dre says, at what age did you realize you wanted to pursue a career in coding, and what led you to this decision? It's a great question. I'm getting a little bit tired and frazzled, but ask it on the Slido, because I definitely want to honor the order that these questions came in. Okay, next question. I'm thinking on going abroad to improve my English and start working. Any tips? Oh, that's awesome. Congrats, Kantoli. But I honestly don't know. So like English is my first language, and it's always what I've spoke. I would hope there are maybe communities out there where you can just like Skype with people and practice your English. If there's not, I would throw a message in the Discord, just be like, hey, I'm trying to practice my English. Can we do just like a 15-30 minute Skype call, and maybe we talk about a certain topic? That can definitely help. Just thinking, you could potentially like video yourself speaking and then watch it back to critique your pronunciation and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't really know, because I only speak English. I spoke a little bit of Spanish when I worked at a Mexican restaurant as a waiter back when I was 16. But other than that, English is my only language. Oh yeah, and I actually learned German when I lived in Germany in the 5th grade. Guten Tag. So yeah, I would say practice with other English speakers. There's tons of stuff online. I think it's Duolingo is what I've used before. I was trying to learn Japanese. Yeah, this is a really cool app. It'll actually like send you notifications on your phone like, hey, you should practice. So check that out. Oh, interesting. Bohan is saying there's an English learning Discord server, so definitely check that out. I'm sure you're bound to find someone that will practice with you. Mindy is asking, do you have a live project we can check out? I have a lot, if that question is for me. Check out my GitHub. github.com/codinggarden. Every live stream I've done, I upload it here, and a lot of these are like public projects. Like this guest map is super fun. How do you get there? Here. So it's on the web. Anybody that goes here can add a message, and it'll put a pin on their location, so you can see everybody that's visited it before. Lots of other apps in there. I mentioned it earlier, but I accidentally took my portfolio site down this morning. So after the stream, I need to go get that back up. But if you go here, that has a link and description to a lot of the projects on my personal GitHub. Okay. Jelly says, what would you do differently knowing what you do know now? No regrets. I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. Submit it on the Slido, and I'll get to it. Hey, Harsh, welcome to the stream. Oh, Zimba is saying you just accidentally skipped the question about onboarding a new backend developer with little experience. You are correct. Let's bring it back. Questions archived. Restore. Sorry about that. Okay, let's answer this question. If they have very little programming experience, it's tricky. You kind of want to meet them at their level. So I mean, I would hope that if they've gotten a job as a back-end JavaScript engineer, they at least know how to use the terminal. They know how to use Git. And I would check that. Like, maybe don't assume. I mean, unless you know and you've talked to them already. But yeah, like, you definitely need to know terminal stuff to be able to like get up and going with your project. So like, definitely start there. If you have an existing project, and I think that's part of the onboarding process, like it's an internal company app, you need to get them up and going. Recently, I've come to really love Docker containers because they make setup and configuration so easy. You literally run one command and everything is up and going. So if your projects aren't containerized, I might consider doing that because it makes it really easy to get things up and going. One thing that it's almost been the way that I've been onboarded at almost every company I've been to is, here's our internal project. You give the person, I'm speaking in third person or whatever, I don't know. Here's our internal project, get it up and running locally. The documentation is here, but if at any point you find that there's a missing dependency or something isn't working, document it. So that way when the next person onboards, they can benefit from your knowledge. So definitely having them getting the project up and running locally, and also documenting if it's broken and potentially trying to fix it or reaching out to you to fix it will help with people getting onboarded in the future. Yeah, and so it's interesting that the question says very little programming experience because it's almost like you have to start even further back. And again, I would go back to if they don't know like Linux and terminal commands, they probably want to get up to speed there before they could really even jump in and start contributing. That said, you can always just say, run these commands and things will just work, but it's not going to benefit that much. Hopefully that helped, Anonymous. It was a little bit rambly, but yeah, hopefully that helped. Pranjal is asking, which Netflix series are you currently watching? Let's think about it because I am. Let me see if I have the Netflix app. I can pull it up. I don't have the Netflix app. Honestly, I've been trying to stop like binging television. So for the last 7 days, I have not watched Netflix. Before that, I was watching it like every single day. I like food shows. Okay, that I think, yeah, there's some new shows out there for food. I like Somebody Feed Phil. So Phil was one of the producer directors of Everybody Loves Raymond, which is an American TV show. But he just goes traveling around the world eating stuff. That's a super cool show. Ugly Delicious. That series is by David Chang, who owns a bunch of restaurants all over and has books. And there's one other guy who was like his partner where they do that show. But yeah, Ugly Delicious. Somebody Feed Phil. What are some other cooking shows? I had been watching recently, what is it called? Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown. Sadly, Anthony Bourdain is no longer with us, but there are like 10 seasons or something on Netflix, and he goes all over the world. But what I like about his show is it's not just about food. It's also about like cultural economics, and he really sheds light on parts of countries and parts of cities that you normally don't see in a lot of these shows, so check that out too. I just talked about a bunch of cooking shows. I like cooking shows. There's one that is something about like robot. I forget what it is. I binged it a few months ago, but it's a Netflix exclusive. Every single episode has a different artistic style and a different team that created it, but they're all on it. Somebody might know what I'm talking about. It has like robots in the name, but that's super cool. It's like if Black Mirror was met like an animation style type thing. Black Mirror is another show that I really like and watch a lot. Yeah, I think there's definitely more. I just don't know it off the top of my head. Oh, cool. Amit is saying Open Talk is a nice app for learning English. You can talk to random people learning English. So that's cool. Himanshu says, thanks for all your time you give us. You teach stuff in layman's language, and it's very helpful. I appreciate from the bottom of my heart. I hope someday soon this will be your full-time thing. Thanks. Hello, Mano from India. That's great. Matthew says, let's say I'm using Vue for front end and PHP for back end. Is fetch to an API the only way to connect the front end to the back end? Yeah, I mean, you can use fetch or Axios, but that's typically how you connect things, where you have this front end application that needs to get maybe some JSON data from your back end. That said, I'm not totally familiar with like Laravel, PHP, and Vue, but it might have a way of hydrating or server-side rendering parts of your Vue.js application, where potentially the first time the page loads, instead of making an AJAX request, the PHP server actually serves the React app with like the data embedded inside of it. I don't know if that's possible or if Laravel does that, but that would be another way. Nuxt.js is typically what people would use for that, which is Node. So I don't know. Like, again, PHP, it's not my area. Katoli is saying, and Katoli was the one that asked the question about learning English. They say, I want to go abroad because tech jobs and jobs in general aren't that good in Spain, at least where I live. So I thought I could start getting some internships abroad to gain experience. Yeah, that would be great. And it's a good way to get a visa to get into the country, which is like an actual work visa. So if you can find a company that will sponsor you for an internship, that's great. Jonas is saying, I have followed along with all of your code katas. It gave me more confidence in solving algos, and I learned so much from doing that, so thank you. I start a new job on Monday, and this helped a lot. Awesome. Congrats, Jonas. I've thought about that before. Like, when I initially started the code katas, I had no idea that it would be such a persistent series and like one of people's favorites. Like, if you go in there, I think I have 25 episodes. Yeah, let's look at it. 26 episodes. 27. There was one episode where I was like rearranging things, so that doesn't exactly count. But yeah, like I'm pretty proud of this, because like as someone who's never seen my channel before and like you're new to programming, you could go here and be preoccupied for like a couple of months on solving problems and learning how to code just by watching these videos. So yeah, cool. Pranjal just asks, is there any NPM module which can apply pagination in a JSON file automatically? I don't know. I haven't used one. Typically, pagination kind of has to be done in two different places. So you have to paginate on the back end, meaning your API might accept query parameters for only serving up like a certain number of items from a given query. And then you pass in the page number. And then your front end would need to handle calling that. I'm going to bring up Meower. There could be curse words on the screen, so if there are any children watching, please hide your eyes. I'll give you a few seconds. Hide your eyes. But I actually did an update to this video where I created pagination. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, when I scroll, it like gradually requests the next page. So I did this with vanilla JavaScript. You can check out that video. I think it's called Meower Part 2. Where basically I took an API that was just serving up everything all at once, and I made it so that you can request one page at a time. One thing I was thinking about today is like, there's all these random websites that I've built on this channel, and they're all still up and running. So like Meower has been in production for like over a year now, and it has thousands of submissions. So many people have tried to hack it or like do cross-site scripting and stuff like that, unsuccessfully, I might add. So that's super interesting too. Jonas is saying, also my Code War score is now very respectable. That's great. Veganism says, Udemy and CJ, keep up the good work. Just dropping in to say your content has been very useful. Peace. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, that's the one. Leventis says, Love and Robots. That's the Netflix show that I was talking about. It's great. Check it out if you haven't. It definitely is. I think it's rated mature. It's not for kids, but it's awesome. Pranjal is asking, what is a CSRF token? Cross-site request forgery. Ask it in Slido and I might get to it. Love, Death, and Robots. That's the one. Love, Death, and Robots. Yeah, everybody got it. Cool. Danielle is asking, do you like cooking? And if so, what's your favorite dish to make? I do, but I'm kind of just too lazy to do anything that requires a lot of prep. So like lately, my go-to choice has been stir fry. So I can cook some jasmine rice in about 15 minutes, and then cut up some vegetables. So maybe some carrots, some broccoli, snap peas. What else? Oh, bell peppers. Chop them up, fry them in a pan. Maybe throw some soy sauce and some seasoning on it, and just eat it. It's nothing special. It tastes good, but it's fairly quick and easy. Like I can make that meal from scratch in 20 to 30 minutes. So I've done that a lot. I also like enchiladas. My mom has a very good enchilada recipe that I like to make every now and then. Pranjal is asking, Redux versus the context API. Which one will you use? It depends. Recently, in one of the applications I'm working on at work, I actually am only using the context API and hooks, no Redux, and it's working out pretty well. Chris is asking, will you be coding today? I think so. There are a ton of questions, though. Let's keep answering questions, but I think in maybe 30 minutes or so, I'll code something. Lucky Andrew says, what happens if you eat yourself? Oh, what? Avi12 asked the question, I had been developing in JavaScript for several years. How can I apply to a company like Google in this field despite having no work experience? I'm not sure if you were here when I was discussing the answer to this question that was asked by, I think, was it Tipsy Ninja? But ultimately, it's this. It's like if you don't have prior work experience, if you don't have a computer science degree, then having an online portfolio that showcases your work is really the way to go. And then if you're applying at a place like Google, they definitely do whiteboarding interviews and potentially systems diagramming interviews. So you definitely want to prepare this kind of stuff before you apply. But you can apply. And you might try getting an internship. I don't know if you're in school right now, but Google does have internship programs. And typically the way companies work is if you get an internship there, that internship is pretty much like a 3-month-long job interview. So if they appreciated the work that you did during that interview, they might actually extend you a full-time offer. Man on the Run says, is it wrong to stick with vanilla JavaScript instead of frameworks, at least for personal projects? It's not wrong at all. And the thing is, if you're using vanilla JS, you can use a lot of these concepts that you learn in frameworks, like the idea of state, the idea of like keeping your code in modules and reusing that code. Like just because it's vanilla JS doesn't mean it has to be ugly or not preferable. So you can definitely do it. It makes you a better JavaScript developer in general. So when you do go to work in like React or Vue, like you kind of have a leg up. So it's not wrong. Do it. Inspire the Next says, what HTTP client do you use in React? They're using a certain one. React Native Fetch Blob seems to auto-generate things. Yeah, so I think that's what it is, RN Fetch Blob, but in React, more recently, I've just used Axios. I do know if you are trying to make a request and like stream it, you can use the built-in fetch, and you can do res.blob, which gives you a streamed response. But yeah, typically I use Axios. Veganism is saying, when are you making another Hot Ones Kata episode? I don't know, maybe we'll do it like once a year, but it was fun. Inspire the Next says, if you configured load balancers, clusters, and Nginx with Node.js to handle massive requests, what are the things that Node can't do or that other low level can do? Sorry, this question is on Slido as well. I'll answer it on Slido then. What's your opinion about Java? I think there's a question on Slido for that. This versus that. Do you think Svelte is going to be the next Vue? I think Svelte is going to be the next big thing. It has a ways to go because there's not a community around it yet. And at least when I was initially looking into it, you can see on the channel I've done a few videos about it. There isn't necessarily like a community supported router. It does have state management built in, but I think it has a little bit to go, and the community needs to come around it and basically develop all the libraries and tools that they've done for React and stuff like that. That said, there is this thing called Sapper, which does like server-side rendered Svelte and includes a router and stuff like that. However, I think that like that's catering to one type of project and one type of person that's going to build a project. There are people out there that don't necessarily want server-side rendered, hydrated Svelte apps, and maybe they want to build a totally separate SPA with Svelte and communicate with the JSON API. And that is a little bit trickier right now because it doesn't exactly have the supported libraries. You can definitely assemble things, but there's no, as far as I know, like best practices yet. So it's got a ways to go, but ultimately the ideas in it are really good. And if anything, maybe React and Vue might start doing something like it. Maybe not, because they seem to be really tied to the virtual DOM, but we'll see. What did that person just say? Oh, new show idea: cooking and coding with CJ. You know what? Like, I've had a startup idea. Like, I want food cooking and creation to be completely and totally automated. It's way too cumbersome right now. And like, I don't know, food is a big part of our culture, just like as humans, but the ability to just say like, I want this, and then the robot gives you that food would be like really cool, save a lot of time. I don't know. What happens if you eat your, I'm not gonna, I don't know. You can't. You would probably bleed out and die before you finished. Dimitri is asking, how do you integrate API calls into the context API? I've converted the context API and hooks to almost Redux-like form, but dispatch requires making thunk middleware. Yeah, I mean, typically, like if you are using Redux, you need some sort of asynchronous event handling, and that's either thunks or sagas, or I think there's a package out there called Redux Promise. So you do need something like that. If you're not using Redux at all, then I think you want to do something like use effect. I forget, but something like that. This person is asking, can you make all errors handler with Node Express? The answer is yes. How to do it? Maybe we can talk about it later. Is there anything like HTTP cache? Okay. In the sake of time, I'm going to skip over the questions and just try to see if anybody has any other comments that I should get to. Can we stop talking about eating people? Because I don't know. Ed is asking, are we going to build something today? I want to, yeah. So let's say 20 minutes from now, we're going to start building. Pranjal is asking, I'll answer this question. The term hydrated, what does it mean when talking in the context of Redux Persist? So to hydrate, I think just the word itself means to water. So like if something's completely, totally dry, you pour some water on it, you have now hydrated it, and it'll like come to life. In the context of programming, and particularly like front-end apps, to hydrate is to basically give it the data that it will need ahead of time. So instead of letting your front-end application load and then making an AJAX request to get that data, a hydrated application will actually load with the data already embedded, so it doesn't have to request it. So that's hydration. Eddie is saying, would you consider yourself a foodie? No, because I'm very cheap. I do like good food, but I'm not going to go pay a bunch of money and go to like a really fancy restaurant in town. Maybe every now and then, but it's not one of my hobbies. I like to watch people cook, and I like the science of cooking too. Okay, let's catch up. Can you make a tutorial on Webrtc? It has great potential in my opinion, but not many tutorials on YouTube. The answer is yes, eventually, and I really like it. If you're not familiar with Webrtc, it is a way of having peer-to-peer communication in the browser. So you can have basically a web application that doesn't have any servers. You can create a chat application or a video application or a data sharing application with no servers, and it's really cool. So yes, eventually. Slido should implement IP duplication checking. I agree. I'm sure some of these anonymous ones are the same person voting for themselves, but that's okay. Linus Dev asks, what was your first laptop sticker? would be hard to say. Oh, you know what? I'll be right back. Got a surprise. So I actually have a completely new sticker job. I don't know if you had seen my stickers in the past, but yeah, those are new stickers. But I save all the cases from my old stickers. So this one was the first one that was on this laptop. Definitely not my first stickers, but that's easier to see. The first one I put on here, it was probably the Apple one, that one right there. And then after this one, I graduated to this one. What I like about this one is like over here, the honeycomb of stickers, which is really cool. But as far as my first sticker, I don't really know, but I do like stickers. What do you think about the language Ruby? It's cool. I don't have much experience with it. I have contributed to a code base that was Ruby on Rails. It's cool. I think it's similar to Python in that it's like white space based and typically is easier for newer programmers to get up and running with because there's not a lot of like weird extra syntax like curly braces and stuff like that. So that's cool about it. And then Ruby on Rails itself, which is separate from Ruby, has a lot of stuff built in, which makes building backend applications like very streamlined. So I think it's cool. I personally wouldn't use it. Why would I not use it? I don't know. I'm like stuck in JavaScript land, but I think it's cool. It's cool. So thanks for the question, memes. Oh yeah, I answered this one earlier. Any good sites or channels for real-world examples for programming concepts? I found real-world examples make things click when I'm struggling to grasp something. Yeah, and well, I don't know if this is exactly what you're looking for, but there literally is this project called Real World. It's not specific to Java. I think it is specific to JavaScript. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. So the mother of all demo apps, exemplary full stack medium.com clone powered by lots of different things. So medium.com is a blogging web app that a lot of people use. And so this person or this company came up with the idea, we're going to implement medium.com, but using all these different technologies. And each one is a totally separate application that just shows how you would build something like that using this particular stack. Where'd it go? Put it in my README. So definitely check this out. It's kind of like if you're familiar with To-Do MVC, which is a to-do app where people have built it in all the different front-end frameworks and front-end languages to show how you would do it. It's very similar to that, but more real-world production scale, and it's the full stack of the front-end and the back-end. So definitely check this out. Yeah, there's all kinds of examples. So that's one thing. The only thing about this is they're all the exact same application. So if you're looking for a lot of different examples, that won't really help you. But it will help you see how something would be built for production using one of these stacks. So check that out. Here we go. Question from Beck. If you configured load balancers, clusters, and Nginx with Node.js to handle massive requests, what are the things that Node can't do that other low levels can do? One thing would be serving up static files. So especially if you have, I don't know, I need like a whiteboard, but if you have Nginx sitting, like it's basically the thing that's handling all the incoming requests to your server, and a request comes in for /API, it can redirect that to a Node.js application running on the same server or even some other server. But if you are serving up static assets, you have like a public folder, you probably shouldn't let Node.js handle that, because it's going to make all of the other requests run a lot slower, because Node.js is not good at reading files from the file system and serving them up. It can, but that's not really what it was meant for. It's meant for handling lots of asynchronous requests that are like talking to a database, getting data back, responding with it. So that's one way that I've set things up before, where when I'm coding locally, yes, Node.js has this public folder and it's serving the static files, but when I deploy it, Nginx is sitting in front, and any request to that static file folder goes through Nginx because it's way, way faster. Any other request will go through the Node.js app. So that's one thing. What else? I'm gonna take it. I have not taken a drink of my tea. I'm gonna take a quick break. Yeah, there's that. I mean, even that, I probably wouldn't configure myself. Like, if this was able to be deployed to like AWS or something like that, any static assets would be in an S3 bucket handled by, is it CloudFront? That's like a content delivery network. And that way, like, it handles all the caching for you. Requests are super fast. And then you can put a load balancer on your backend, like EC2 instances. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. There's probably other things, but I can't think straight right now. Let's keep going. Robot says, can we soon get to coding with 25 upvotes? Did you use anonymous accounts? You probably did, but yes, in 15 minutes. We're getting there. Thoughts about React Context API? Should we replace Redux? It shouldn't replace it, but I think for certain applications it makes sense to use. Redux helps in larger applications where you have a lot going on, especially the Redux dev tools, because it shows what's happening and where, and you can do time travel and stuff like that. With the Context API, you may not be able to do time traveling. Actually, the React dev tools got a new release recently. I don't know what all the features are, but in hooks, there is a hook called use reducer. And that basically gives you a Redux style thing that you can use directly in your stateless functional components. And so that maybe in the new React DevTools actually gives you time travel debugging. I don't know. If it doesn't exist, somebody should make it happen. I would say that's one thing. So like, if you like time travel debugging, Redux is kind of the way to go. You don't really get that out of the box with React Context API. For smaller applications, it might make sense to just use that. That's my answer. Let's keep going. Will you do any serverless framework experiments in the future? Potentially. I do use now to deploy stuff, and it actually has it's based on serverless functions. You don't exactly have to think about it that way, especially the fact that it allows you to deploy entire Express applications. But under the hood, what it actually does is creates a serverless function that is able to handle a lot of different requests. So potentially, and I think there had been some suggestions or ideas for doing something like that. So maybe. Here we go. You can automate it because they don't have IP duplication. Thanks, robot. This is a good one. What domain registrar do you use? I use namecheap.com. And I've been using them for a long time. They're really good. Typically, they have the best deals on domains. I'm going to hide my screen real quick because I might be logged in. I have all these ideas for domains that are in my cart right now. I buy a lot of domains. Yeah, I'm not signed in, but there is stuff in my cart. Cool. Namecheap.com. They have a lot of good deals. Typically, I'll buy my domain here, but they allow you to specify custom DNS settings and add like aliases and CNAMEs and stuff like that. So I'll buy my domain here, but I use hosting elsewhere. Like I don't buy the shared web hosting or the VPSs or anything here. I'll use Now or Heroku for that. But I do get my domains here. Pork Bun is one that I've been using recently. They sometimes have better deals than Namecheap. I can't actually recommend it because I haven't used their dashboard, so they may not give you as much power in terms of like updating the DNS settings and stuff like that. But you can search across a ton of domains. They usually have pretty good deals, but I do prefer Namecheap. At what point do you hit the limitations of Node.js if you're only in web and mobile development using React and React Native? I'm not sure how to answer this question. At what point do you hit the limitations of Node.js if you are only in web and mobile development using React and React Native? Do you mean Node.js running as an API that these React and React Native apps are communicating with? Like, what's the limit of it? Or are you asking, because Node.js is used like in the build pipeline for React and React Native? What? I don't know. Please clarify. Yeah, clarify, and I can get to that. Any ideas about what to build using Lambda functions / Google Cloud Run? What are the most frequent use cases for using such tech? Typically, the use case is lower cost. So the idea with Lambda functions or serverless functions, if you're not familiar with them, is the fact that you'll have, think of it as like one single REST endpoint deployed on the web. And instead of having a whether it's a virtual private server or a dedicated server up and running all the time and just waiting for that request to come in, Lambda functions and serverless functions, these companies behind the scenes, the way they handle it is when that request comes in, they instantly spin up a little bitty instance that's only going to be up for like a few seconds that will respond to that request, and then it goes back down. So you're only paying for the compute time of that response, that request handler going up for a few seconds per request, versus paying for the compute time of having a server, a dedicated server or a virtual private server up and running and paying for that thing running 24/7. So that's kind of like the draw to using something like that. In terms of like use cases, it works really well with if you have like a microservice architecture where you have lots of mini services and then maybe you have a gateway in front of it. I know AWS has API gateway where you can create one gateway entry point and then that will point to a bunch of little Lambda functions. I'm sure you can do something similar with Google. So yeah, I'm going to stop talking about that. Hope that helped. Have you tried gRPC? No, I have not. Yes, okay, this question was one of the first ones to be asked. Let's answer it. What is your opinion about Java Spring? I think it's totally cool and valid technology. So this is a framework for building backend applications with Java. And I think it's somewhat similar to Express in that it's like very low config. Like you can kind of get up and running with very little code for creating your backend routes. I think they might have like an ORM that you can use with databases. So I think it's great. I think if you know Java or your team knows Java and you're trying to build backend applications, it's probably the way to go. I personally haven't used it for much. I've only like played around with it, but it's a viable option. It's cool. Try it. I don't know. How much is important to know algorithms and data structures for web development? For web development in general, probably not that important, but typically companies have an interview process where those are the kinds of questions that they've been asking because they typically have only been hiring computer science graduates. And that's what computer science graduates know. They don't necessarily know fundamentals of web development. And now you have things like self-taught developers or people that went to coding boot camps applying to these companies, and these companies don't know how to interview them because they have a different base of understanding. So how important, I would say on a scale of 1 to 10 for your everyday run-of-the-mill React or Vue web application and like a JSON API backend, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably a 2 in terms of importance. That said, if you're building much larger applications, serving millions of users, millions of requests, and you're processing lots and lots of data, then it can help to know those types of things because that's where they really come into play. When you're dealing with huge amounts of stuff where performance really matters and performance tuning really matters, it absolutely helps to know like what's the best data structure to use for this particular problem or what's the fastest algorithm that we can use. So of my opinion, it's actually not that important, but you do typically need to know it going into the interview process because that's how companies interview. And if you're a more senior developer or just someone working on much larger applications, that stuff is imperative to know. Otherwise, you run into performance bottlenecks and stuff like that. Cool. How we doing on time? Probably like 5 more minutes of question answering. Can you explain cores and if it's possible to bypass like in Postman? This we could potentially do in the coding aspect of the show. That would be a fun little demo. So, yes. When you're building an app with multiple user permissions, can you create multiple sub-apps and redirect users to them based on those permissions? This is a very specific question. Let's see if we can parse what this is asking. Multiple user permissions. Okay, so we have an app. Many different users can log in. Many different users can save data, but it is restricted that only those users can access their own data. Next part, can you create multiple sub-apps and redirect users to them based on those permissions? I mean, I want to say yes. I don't know the specifics of this, but yeah. I mean, you when a user logs in, you would probably retrieve what permissions they do have, and then your backend could look at those permissions on an incoming request and say, "Oh, you are an admin." Well, maybe not the backend, but the backend would serve up that user data with their permission, and then the front end can say, okay, your permission is admin. I'm going to redirect you to the admin dashboard. Or your permission is just a plain old user. I'm going to redirect you to the user dashboard. Absolutely possible. This idea of sub-apps, maybe that's what you mean, like an admin dashboard versus a user dashboard versus like a public-facing website, is possible. I would need to know the specifics of what you're doing to answer that better. Paradox. From my brother Dustin, what have you been doing since your last stream? Let's think about it. So my last stream was the Develop Denver conference, which is like a little over a week ago. What have I been doing? Learning and configuring Docker. So for one of my apps at work, it's a fairly complex architecture. There's like 5 backend services. There are 5 different libraries that are used internally by all of those services. There are 5 different front ends. It's very big. And so when someone new is being added to the project or someone new wants to contribute, it's actually very cumbersome to get all this stuff up and going. So I have been working on a Docker container configuration where you can literally type one command and all of the services will spin up, the database will spin up, everything's up and going, and then you can start testing or start coding. So that's pretty much what I've been doing alongside a lot of the other work that I'm doing at work. I haven't been watching Netflix, which I mentioned. And trying to think, what have I been doing? I feel like I've seen people recently, like people I know. I don't know. That's pretty much it. I've been nerding out on Docker. Do you ever do any viewer project reviews? I haven't, but it is an idea that's been passed around in the past about like reviewing people's code or reviewing people's portfolios, and I'd totally be up for it. Just have to find the time. Okay. Andrea says his question says waiting for review. Oh, okay. It flagged you because I think you used the word sucks. I'll approve that. When a mosquito bites on, it's a great question, Bohan, but not, what's the word? Appropriate for this stream right now, but thanks for asking. I'm actually going to answer this question from Andreas. Sorry. Because he did ask it earlier. He's a longtime viewer. But yeah, let's catch up on the chat. I'll answer that, and I think we'll write some code. We're gonna write some code, I swear. Pablo is asking, where do you get these stickers? I get them on Redbubble. If you're on the Discord server, in the welcome channel, there's a link to Redbubble where I actually have Coding Garden stickers, so you can check those out. But Redbubble is awesome. Like, all of these came from Redbubble. They're independent artists. They upload their artwork, and then Redbubble prints the stickers and all kinds of other stuff too. So check out Redbubble. Redbubble. Avi12 is asking, have you checked out tab 9? I haven't. Pranjal is asking, have you used Redis with Node.js? Only once, and only like in passing. Redis is a key value store, so typically people use it for like really fast lookups and maybe even caching. I haven't used it extensively. Hello, Luca. Welcome to the stream. Katoli is saying, for the community app bot. So Katoli is a contributor to the Coding Garden community app. And he has been working on the Discord bot for the community Discord server. But he's saying, I had to create a simple JSON DB to store some things. Do you think I can use it as a project? Absolutely. Yeah. So I think Katoli was it Katoli? Maybe asking about, I think it was somebody else. But if you're talking about like a project in your portfolio, absolutely. Yeah, like I'm sure it's open source, so you can talk about it, you can show it. Everything in the Coding Garden community is completely and totally open source, so you're welcome to use any of that too. So yeah. Jonas is mentioning that HoboHost has great deals on hosting. I haven't used them or heard of them. Let's see. Memes is saying, got any Discord bot ideas? Running out of cool ideas. I don't know. I think a lot of stuff has been done with Discord bots. I don't know. Luca is learning Docker at the moment too. Yeah, and it's like I had used it a little bit in the past, but this is really the first time that I like made multiple Docker containers, created a Docker Compose file, figured out how to like map volumes and have persistent database storage, even though you're like removing the container and doing different stuff like that. So yeah, I'm really liking it. Self-improvement is asking, can you show all the Google Chrome extensions you use? Yes, I can actually. That's a fun question. I want to answer it. Meme says, write some code already. To anyone chat, my question was the one about real world examples. I meant real world analogies. Can you want to have a site or channel for that? Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Hello, Hage, who says, finally watching your live stream. I've always seemed to miss it. I'm a new subscriber. Really appreciate work. Thank you. Okay, to this question asked by Andreas. I've been trying to get into web dev content creation on YouTube, and I've noticed my content sucks if I don't prepare before recording. What's your prep process? So for me, the journey to become someone who makes like YouTube coding videos was actually like teaching in the real world. And so that's definitely where I developed a lot of my teaching and presentation skills. And for me, the way that I ran my classroom was very just like ad hoc and improvisational. Like if a student needed help with a particular thing, we would just do a lesson or a breakout on that particular thing without much preparation, because that's kind of how learning goes. Like it's not always just a linear path, like, oh, I'm learning everything and it's all great. You have detours and stuff like that. So to be able to think on your feet and give a lesson on something random or something that you maybe haven't talked about in a while is something that I got really good at. But it's not at all necessary to create content. It is just my style. So typically, and what I learned through the years of teaching is you typically want to work from learning objectives. So it's just how to create content. So you want to work from learning objectives. And these are explicit, measurable takeaways that people will get from either your lesson or your video. And it's almost like an outline, but at the same time, it helps people going into your lesson know what they're going to get out of it. And it also helps them keep track of where they are in the lesson. So work on your learning objectives. You can work from that. And that's typically how I would do like ad hoc or unprepared lessons. Like we would create the objectives as a class and then just try to hit those objectives one by one. eventually, after doing it for a long time, I have like in my back pocket like just a set of examples that I would use for particular learning objectives and stuff like that. So that helps. To your question, what's your prep process? Start there. Step 1, create actionable learning objectives. I think if you just search online for learning objectives, let's see what Carnegie Mellon University has to say about it. Design and teach a course. Articulate your learning objectives. Before you decide on the content to cover in your course, endow your course with a strong internal structure conducive to student learning. Alignment along the three... Okay, let's see. It's the triangle of success. Objectives, assessments, and instructional strategies. Well, that's not a triangle, is it? Triangle of success. Yeah, so articulating your learning objectives will help select your course content, determine appropriate assessments and instructional strategies. So let's pick an example. So if we go to these ideas that have been submitted, that's a lot of ideas. Let's find one. Internationalization and localization. Let's say I wanted to teach a lesson on internationalization and localization, and I want to come up with some learning objectives. What are we going to do? So typically when I come up with learning objectives, I use verbs from Bloom's taxonomy. Taxonomy? Let's see. Yes, this thing. And because... Oh no. This is typically the one. Let's go to the website. Yeah, here we go. So this is like another teaching and learning concept. But it goes kind of like from the bottom up. Sometimes it's represented as a pyramid, but these verbs are what you pretty much can use in your learning objectives. And it depends on like how deep you want to go into a particular topic, or like what is the prior knowledge of the people coming into this given lesson. So let's say for this lesson, internationalization and localization, we want to start at the very basic. Let's say you know nothing about this. So I might actually pick from knowledge, which is remember previously learned information, and we might do define. So my first objective is going to be define internationalization. That's a very actionable objective. Like a student can walk away from a lesson and have the definition for internationalization and potentially have it memorized. So that's my first objective. My second objective is probably going to be define localization. So that's very basic. Next, let's move into something like describe. So let's describe how internationalization and localization are used. Can I do a word wrap? Describe how internationalization and localization are used in web development. So this is another like very simple but actionable objective. So if I'm new to this and I'm learning about internationalization and localization, this is something else I can take away from the lesson. I now know how to describe it. I know potentially like when it's used. Describe how and when internationalization and localization are used in web development. Cool. So these are like knowledge. Let's like move up a little bit and try to maybe get to application, because in this lesson, I might want to actually introduce them to a JavaScript library where they can do internationalization and localization in their project. So for comprehension, let's see what we have. Classify, convert, defend, describe is in there as well. Give examples. Identify. Let's see, application, demonstrate, discover, dramatize. Let's use demonstrate. So we'll say demonstrate the use of internationalization and localization on a website. So I'm actually going to, so before we're just describing it, or we're laying out definitions, we're then describing it, we're then demonstrating how it's actually used. We can show on the web, like if we change our language, the website changes. That's great. And so that's kind of like showing them how it would work. And then from there, I would actually move into actually practice and doing it ourselves. Let's find a verb for that. Show, relate, repeat, select, recall. Use. I think we'll use. And lastly, use JavaScript to change the language on a web page based on the user's language. Now, we started with definitions, then we get into more descriptions of how all this works, then we're actually demonstrating it in practice, and finally, we have the objective to use JavaScript to change the language on the page based on the user's language. So to me, this is how I would start, and I realize this is like, I don't know, it's totally random. It actually took me a little longer to create these, but here, this is kind of like our outline, and we have a place to go from here. So this is the skeleton, the bones of the content that we're about to create, and now we want to get in and actually create or come up with how we're going to do each of these things in the lesson that we're going to give. So 1, create actionable learning objectives. 2, for each objective, we will come up with what's the word, like materials to use. So in terms of like this objective, we really just need to come up with the definition. Maybe we find multiple definitions and we can compare them. In terms of describe, we would probably come up with maybe some examples of websites where we can show how this is working, and we would have a whole list of those. And not only do you want materials to use, you also want kind of like exercises. Exercises that will allow the student to demonstrate that they can, or that they have mastered a given objective. So for demonstrate the use of internalization and localization, I might actually have an exercise that says, here are a list of 5 websites. I want you to go in your browsers to these websites and write down what they're doing. Maybe you look at the source code, but I want you to write down what they're doing to apply internationalization and localization. And then for this objective, use JavaScript to change the language on a web page. I might actually have an exercise written out that says, create a web page, install this library, and make it so that the language will change based on the language of the user's browser. And so all of these apply back to this. It's fairly structured. A student can walk away from it and say, yes, I know how to do each and every one of these things. They can like check boxes. So that helps. I talked about that for a long time, but you can tell I'm passionate about it. And so typically what I used to do is if a student came up with something that they wanted a lesson on, we would write the objectives then and there, like, okay, what do you want to get out of this lesson? And then I would just give the lesson. And in real time, we would find exercises, we would find ways to demonstrate it. So that's part of my preparation process. But like I said, eventually for me, this kind of just became more like improvisational, where I can just kind of like pull it out of thin air and like make a lesson on it. So yeah, did I lose viewers? I think I lost viewers during that. I'm just talking about objectives. Cool. So hopefully that helps. And it really just, in terms of creating like YouTube content, it really helps the viewer who's about to watch your video know what they're going to get out of it. And it helps you stay on track when you're like planning all of these things. So hopefully that helped, Andreas. I know that was like very rambly. Let's see. Okay. Hello, Tiger. Welcome to the stream. Let's see. Yeah, triangle of success sounds like a business buzzword. I got it from Silicon Valley, which is like the hilarious TV show. They have the business triangles of success or something like that. Or maybe it's the rectangle of success. I don't know. Hage is asking a question. I kind of mentioned it, answered it earlier in the stream. So after this, you can rewind. But I did mention what do you need to do to find your first dev job. So I kind of like laid it out. Have a portfolio. Have a really good GitHub profile. Work on your resume. Practice interviewing of all sorts, whiteboarding, pair programming, coding problems, practice behavioral interview questions, apply to places but keep track of them, and one of the major ones is network, like meet people, go out there. That's gonna help you get jobs as well. That was the summarized version of it, but I am gonna push all this stuff up to GitHub. Ed is saying, I think this would be a nice case to make a separate video on this topic about creating content. Yeah, that would be fun. And honestly, it helps the end goal of like everyone sharing their knowledge, because I mean, everyone might want to share their knowledge, but they may not know how or how to do it in an effective way. So yeah, that'd be fun. Cool. Yeah, and thanks for the timestamp, Linus. Okay, there are still 27 questions in here, but we need to code. We need to get coding. And because this thing does not do IP duplication checking, I don't know if I can trust the upvotes. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of these ideas, put it on straw poll, which does do IP duplication checking, and then you guys can vote on which one I should build or try to do. Are there anything else in the questions that I might ask? Oh, not archived, live. Do you think the programming field has gotten oversaturated with all the boot camps and colleges, etc.? Potentially. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. And at the same time, I think companies just need to realize that they probably need to start hiring these types of people, because the majority of companies, and like even in the Denver area, they're really only hiring for like mids and senior position. Like nobody wants a junior, or nobody wants to have someone come in that they're going to have to train or get up to speed. But I think you should. It's going to create someone that like embodies your company's values and will grow with the company. So I don't know. Is it oversaturated? Kind of. And it also depends on like what market you're in. You could potentially like go to a code school in Denver, but then move out to a place where there aren't a lot of people that went to a code school and probably find a job. So I think it varies. Michael is saying, I'm 15, not newbie on programming, but not sure about frameworks and languages. What would you learn about software development if you were my age? I don't know. I've been talking for too long. But I think that young, especially like you, I mean, you have a ways before you even go to college, like unless you're going to graduate from high school early. I don't like do fun stuff, build games, learn how games work. If there are like apps that you use on your mobile phone or your tablet or your desktop, like tear them apart, like be really interested in like how they work and try to build your own version of it. I think for me, like that's definitely how I grew up and how I learned about a lot of things. Is like I was essentially like a reverse engineer from a young child. Like I always want to figure out how these things work and then like build them myself. So that's my suggestion. Hopefully it helped. Design patterns are important. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get to all those questions, but we're now going to move on to ideas. Here we go. What should I build? So this one has the most upvotes. React Native mobile app. It would be interesting. Multiplayer game. A simple URL shortener with serverless functions and a database like Mongo. Ooh. Ooh. So if you look at the title of this stream, that puny.ly, that's something I actually built a while back on one of the Noob Quest streams. But this is not a serverless function. This is deployed to now, but not the more recent now, to the older one. And it is a URL shortener. That could be interesting. Project management in React for tracking the project, like start date, end date, estimation. Internationalization and localization. General question: at what age did you know you wanted to pursue a career in coding? Probably at a very young age. Like I said, I was tearing things apart and like building computers and stuff like that since I was probably like 9 or 10. And it helped that my father was like very into technology, so he helped with that. Anonymous asks, how are you? I'm doing good. It's a good day. All right, let's make a straw poll, and then we can all vote on what I'm actually going to code. That was 2 hours of just CJ talking and no code. We've got pretty good sustained viewership. Cool. All right, first one, React Native mobile app. Build a simple URL shortener with service functions in a database like Mongo. A simple chart functionality in Next.js in which a user can purchase a product using a dummy card. Let's say, I don't know. I don't want to spend more than like 45 minutes on this thing. I'm gonna skip that one. A REST API with security best practices using Express and MongoDB. I actually have like an older presentation with a bunch of links to security stuff, so I can talk about that. Project management app in React. Handling errors with Node Express. Thoughts on ASP.NET Core. That's not a project idea, but I do think it's very interesting. I actually did C# and ASP.NET in my very first job. So yeah, it's cool. How to start working. These are all downvoted. How to start working on open source projects. Oh, this is actually a good one. If you all vote for it, because I've thought about this recently, but the P5JS web editor, which Coding Train, if you're not familiar with his YouTube channel, he has a YouTube channel. Coding Train uses and teaches with the P5JS code editor or web editor, but that is an open source project and it actually has quite a few issues open. So it would be fun to try and fix one of those issues live on stream. So that's a cool suggestion. Can we connect to SSH using JavaScript? I would search npm, but probably. I'm just trying to think. You essentially want to SSH into a server from within a Node.js application. Weird, but yeah, probably doable. Show us the inner workings and maybe implement a sessions management system from scratch. I don't know if we can do that in 45 minutes, but we can always try. Or at least talk through the concepts of it. Everyone's downvoting Linus Dev. Stop downvoting Linus Dev. Discord bot using a different library. Ooh, okay. The one I used for the one on our Discord server is Discord.js. So yeah, we'll find something else. And then this last one, what is it? Multiplayer game. All right, I realized there are 2 questions I said I was going to answer, but then I didn't. Okay. Go. Okay. Vote here. So vote there. We're going to figure out what I'm going to code. But while you all are voting, the question came in, can you show us all the Chrome extensions that you use? And yes, I can. I'm going to hide my screen just for a second to make sure there's not anything that I don't want to show you. But yeah, I can show you each one and talk about what they do. Cool. All right, one of the first extensions I have is called AlienTube for YouTube, and it actually pulls Reddit comments and puts them below YouTube videos. I actually haven't seen this in a while, so like maybe it's not working anymore, but it, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times the comments on Reddit are much more insightful than YouTube comments. So this is really cool because it pulls those in. Cookie auto delete, I actually only started using recently. But what it does is, anytime you close a tab or a window, and you can set it to automatically do this, it will delete any cookie in your browser that you have not whitelisted. So when you're browsing the web, things are dropping cookies left and right. And ultimately what that allows advertisers and companies to do is to track you as you move around the web. So like, even though they're not exactly looking at your browser history, because they've placed a cookie on your website when you visit, I don't know, Amazon.com. That's not a good use case, but let's say you visit some website and they have an ad tracker on it. It drops a cookie. Okay. Now, when you go to some other website and that same ad tracker is on there, because it has the same cookie, it knows that you've been to those two websites, and it basically is like tracking you around the web. So what cookie auto delete does is it deletes any cookies that you haven't whitelisted. So I whitelist all the things that I want to stay logged into, like YouTube and Gmail, and Twitter, and I don't know, Stack Overflow and GitHub, like all the things that I use all the time that I know, hey, I want to keep those cookies. I whitelist them, and then everything else just gets deleted instantly. So they essentially can't track me around the web. So that one's cool. Decentralize is another like privacy conscious or focused extension. But essentially what happens is a lot of websites use CDN links to something like CDN.js. So CDN.js is great. Not saying it's not great. But again, because multiple websites could use that same CDN.js link, they could potentially track you and know what websites you visit because they all load that same link, and like they're basically like leaving a cookie and all that stuff. So what this decentralized does is anytime there's a request to CDN.js, it checks to see if it has, and other CDNs, there's a list of them in there, it checks to see if it has that cached locally already, and then it doesn't even try to make the request, it just serves it from the cache. And so that, again, prevents things from tracking you. Empty new tab page just is blank. This is actually Bliss, tab Bliss for my blank tab page, which I like. It's nice and black. You can also put like an image behind it. You can change the message that shows up. JSON viewer, when you look at JSON, it formats it for you. One tab is really great. If you, let's say you have hundreds and hundreds of tabs open, you can click this button. It puts them all onto a web page with links to them. And you can save it for later. I'm not going to click this because then you can see all of the the one tab links that I've saved. But it's really cool and reduces having hundreds of tabs open and allows you to go back to them later if you want. Privacy Badger automatically blocks scripts that are trying to store cookies that you haven't whitelisted before. React DevTools are great. The Reddit Enhancement Suite adds special features to the old version of Reddit. There's the DevTools for Redux. Screenshot on YouTube adds a little button to YouTube videos where you can click screenshot, and typically I'll use that if I want to create like a custom thumbnail for a video. I mentioned Stylus earlier, but that lets me have custom styles on websites. uBlock Origin is my ad blocker of choice. There's the Vue DevTools, and that's it. So that is a breakdown of my Chrome extensions. Okay, we got a lot of votes. 42% are for how to start working on open source projects. That would actually be really fun. I mean, I kind of want to maybe start a separate video just so it doesn't have to be after these 2 hours to show me working on an open source project. Let's see. And Ed says, about contributing to open source projects, I recently found a course on Egghead. The course is titled How to Contribute to an Open Source Project on GitHub. That's great. Let's actually just bring it up. Yeah, if you're not familiar with egghead.io, they have a ton of video courses on learning all kinds of stuff. Let's search for open source. How to write an open source JavaScript library. How to contribute to an open source project on GitHub. From Kent C. Dodds. That's awesome. Kent C. Dodds is great. He did the one of the JavaScript podcasts, JavaScript on Air, for a long time. He's a contributor to React. Tons of cool courses, but check that out. I'm gonna go with the one that has the most, the ones that has the most votes. The URL short, I don't know, like potentially for a future video. I will say this: I have a GitHub repo. I haven't paid a lot of attention to it, but when I created it a while back, it was the point of it. But this repo called Landscaping is where you can submit video and project ideas that eventually I'll get to. Yeah, like I said, it's been kind of neglected, but I do want to use this as a repository for show ideas and project ideas. So eventually I can do stuff like serverless functions and things like that. So you can submit an issue here. Just be sure to follow the issue template. And eventually we can get to stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, how to start working on open source project. This looks like the clear winner. I mean, there are 60 people watching, but it looks like we only have 28 votes. Does anyone else want to vote? I mean, this one is winning by like 7 or 8 votes. Oh, there's another vote for it. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to stop the idea generator. Oh no, stop. And I think we're going to do it, and I am going to use the P5.js web editor as an example. Okay, should I stop this stream and start a new one to do that, or should I just keep going and then like edit the video later? I think I kind of want to stop this stream and start a new one. That's what I'm going to do. Let's just create a new stream. I'm going to go offline and then come back online like almost immediately, but just add a new link. YouTube Studio. Kat says, CJ low-key trying to influence the election results. I wasn't trying to influence them. It was already the top voted one. I was just expanding on it. It is my channel anyways. I can do what I want. Yeah, I'm going to do a new one. And maybe I'll take like a 15-minute break or so, but I'm going to do it. And those 60 of you that are watching, come on back. Cool. You can see the behind the scenes here of how I do this. So I'm going to create an event. That's the current event that's happening. Title. How to contribute to open source projects. Do I capitalize things? How to contribute to open? Is it 4 o'clock? It's almost 4 o'clock? What have I been doing? What am I doing with my life? How to contribute to open source projects. Should I put P5.js web editor in the title? Let's go look at it. Just to see what issues are open and which one we could potentially tackle. So just real quick, if you're not familiar with it, this is the P5.js web editor. You can use it to create P5 projects. Let's see, do we have some examples? File, examples. Download. Wait, I don't want to download it. How do I just load it? Do I click it? There we go. Go. Oh, I guess that's all it does. But regardless, this lets you create P5.js projects in the browser, and you can preview them in the browser, and it has like a file browser and stuff like that. But it is an open source project, meaning that the source code is completely and totally open and viewable on GitHub. It is under the LGPL license, which is the GNU Lesser Public License, which I think ultimately means this cannot be used for commercial purposes. Regardless, I'll talk about that when I actually do the video, but this is the thing I'm going to try to contribute to. If you go to issues, there are a bunch open. Let's look at labels. So I want to see, let's try for a high priority issue. I'm a React developer. This thing is built with React, so hopefully I can figure some of these things out. Okay, so we're looking at high priority issue, and I guess the other cool thing is they potentially have labeled things as a good first issue. And so if you're totally new to open source, typically these are ones that might be a bit easier for you to contribute to. Yeah, and Avi says they mainly know P5 due to Dan Schiffman and the coding train. Yeah, and see you later, Avi. Thanks for tuning in. Jelly is saying should have added how to build a camper van to the straw poll. Okay, so yeah, let's not do a good first issue though, because I'm a React developer. I can figure this stuff out, right? So let's go high priority and potentially like a bug. Download of zip file fails to complete. Privacy and exposed API keys. I mean, typically, let's sort by oldest. Typically, the older ones might actually be harder to solve because they've been around for so long and nobody's tackled them. Let's go in the other, yeah. Project stops running occasionally, missing console errors, file not found. The character limit of the sketch name, let's see. Name a project with special characters and try to download. Some of them will cause a problem. Example, ampersand, yeah. I don't know. I think I'll do this browsing and perusing in the next video. But I think I can find something that hopefully I can fix, make a pull request for, and do it all like in the next video. So I'm gonna do that. This is what I'm gonna do. How to contribute to open source projects. What time is it now? It is currently 4 o'clock my time. So let's do this stream at 4:33, just so I can just take a quick break and walk around a bit. Cool. Tags. Open source. JavaScript. P5.js. Fun. Live. Coding. Programming. Cool. And let me just grab, not that. Yeah. That's the Price is Right theme song. That's my description. Okay. Hide my screen so you can't see my stream keys. Create the event. This is fun. Thanks everyone for asking questions. I'll push this up to GitHub pretty soon too. All the answers to the questions and whatnot. Cool. So I just put that link in the YouTube chat. I'll also put it on my Twitter and stuff like that. But in about 30 minutes, I'm going to go live and I'm going to show how to contribute to an open source project. Specifically, we're going to contribute to the P5.js web editor. So that's going to be fun. All right. Like I mentioned, I'll push this stuff up to GitHub. I'll put a link in the description of this video so you can see all of my links and answers to the Q&A. Thanks, everyone, for asking questions. That was super fun. I think it was probably the longest Q&A that we've done before. And yeah, see you in about 30 minutes. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And if you're available in 30 minutes, I'll see you then. Bye.